Well, good evening, good evening, good evening. Oh my God, I am Tamara L, and I am so excited to be back to another installation of Just Another Messenger, where we raise the situation of urgency and consciousness regarding today's current event. Now, we're at a pivotal point in society where we can just no longer ignore, hide, sit back, and just escape the past, which tells our present circumstances as well as a prediction of our future. Now, therefore, in each episode of Just Another Messenger, what we're going to do, we're going to dive deep into the historical past by examining the philosophies, legal system, as well as political decisions that continues to influence our daily lives. Now, let's just imagine this because we're going to be touching on this born sovereign birthright betrayal. So let's just imagine being born in the United States jurisdiction on American soil and only to be told that you don't belong here. Now, that's not some type of fictional movie storyline. It's the real political war that's heating up over birthright citizenship. Now, we're going to get into this constitutional chaos, political moves, as well as the future implications of dismantling one of United States of America's most fundamental principles. And I'm going to give you the Latin word. It's called jus soli, which means citizenship by the soil. Now, please join in tonight's conversation. Give us some of your comments and be a part of the conversation that matter. And don't forget to hit the subscribe, share, and like button to be a part of our future thought-provoking conversation you wouldn't want to miss. And I also have to give our housekeeping rules here. Also, we're going to put up our information where you can also join us, like I said, over on YouTube at Just Another Messenger. So if you're on our Facebook or our X platform, that's why I had to do another countdown because it wasn't clicking into that. But that's okay. We'll work on that another time. You can join us on YouTube as well as through my personal Facebook page at Just Another Messenger. And we're also on X at jam underscore, that's JAM underscore 404 podcast. We're also building up our Twitter page as well, so give us time to get that going. Also, please be a part of helping the channel grow. You can do that via our Cash App at $ Just Another Messenger. I know it's say at Just Another Messenger, so $ Just Another Messenger through our Cash App. Also, as you can see, if you or someone that you know would like to be a part of the show, we said we was going to wait before we start bringing a lot of people on. We want to get the foundation set and things of that nature before we start bringing a lot of people on. So, but if you or someone like to know to be a part of the show, please send us an email to justanothermessenger@gmail.com. I mean, we have a exciting show for you tonight. Very excited about that. So let's go ahead and just cut out before we get started. Looks like some of the props are not working here today. I know I've been gone so long. I don't know what's going on. All right, we're back. I tell you. They have changed up a couple of prompts. I'm like all over the place. Like, where is this? Where is that? All right, we got that together. So I'm back. It's been a while. Everyone know that I've been gone for a while. Got injured on the last vacation. In our last episode, we dealt with media magic and mental chains. We dealt with that Shannon Sharp scandal that was going on. And as you can see, that thing has cooled down faster than your morning coffee from your Keurig machine. So as you can see, that information, that distraction is no longer being a bread and circus. But we have this new bread and circus has been going on for the past 3-4 weeks, which is the Diddy scandal. So we're not going to talk on that. We're not going to get involved with that. All right, because we have much bigger fish to fry here. And I would like to thank everyone for your well wishes and support while I was on this healing journey. And I'm still on this healing journey. I have 17 weeks of therapy to go. So let's just run down some hot ticket items that has happened over the past few weeks. But first, before I do that, I would like to just give a shout out to AI Tamara. I hope you have enjoyed AI Tamara over the past couple of weeks that I've been going. She has been delivering the daily digital podcast show, and it has been such a joy in creating that model, as I didn't just want to fall out of the YouTube algorithms. You know how that goes. So it was just great to be laid up and just play around with your computer and still be able to get some work done. And we actually and we also picked up an additional 100 new subscribers. So we just are very excited about the organic growth of the platform. And please continue to share, like, and subscribe. Hit that like button today. Everyone that's on our on my personal Facebook page, Tamara L. And if you're on the YouTube at Just Another Messenger, smash that like button. Yeah, I normally don't ask people to do that, but guess what I'm gonna start doing? I'm gonna start asking people to smash that like button. Because if you're on here and you're watching me, just go ahead. It's free. Go ahead and do that favor. Let's do that. So, now I'm excited about the growth, which is why I need you to really support the channel with your contributions and keeping the platform alive. I think I'm very thankful for our supporters here, but I know we have many more supporters out there. So please support the platform and continue to help it grow. You can do that, like I said, through our Cash App at $ Just Another Messenger. We're also on Substack. We're building out our Substack for your digital newspaper. So go ahead and go over to Substack, put in your name and email at Just Another Messenger, and please subscribe to stay abreast to our daily, no, that's not going to be daily, to our digital newsletters that we put out. There's a lot of work, y'all. Now, and like I said, thanks to all the viewers tonight on YouTube, Facebook. We tried to get on X, but that didn't go through. All right, let's see. Oh, housekeeping rules. Thanks. Yeah. Oh, happy solar return to Dorethia L. Happy solar return. I called and I sung to you today. So you got your singing today. So, all right. All right. We have in the house, we have Malik Day, Islam Lords and Nobles. Yes. You have enjoyed the AI. I'm glad you did. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I enjoyed I enjoyed playing and creating that avatar and putting that information out. I mean, it's been a breast of information. And a lot of people say, Tamara, why do you say we a lot? Because I get a lot of phone calls and emails from people in my warm market to say, hey, could you talk about this? Could you talk about that? Could you break this down? Could you break this down? So that's why I say we are a community that is breaking these change, and we're dealing with unraveling the information that's going on, because it's not new. The information that's being presented is not new information. So we have to see where these old playbook information resided from and how it's coming forward. All right. So we have to look at that from that perspective. So, all right. So we have our housekeeping rules out of the way. And what we're going to do, unfortunately, I'm going to come off screen so we can go ahead and get started. All right. Before let's get started with our housekeeping rules. The views, opinions, and the thoughts are the protective expression of Tamara L. for storytelling and educational purposes, and does not provide statutory counseling for any United States color of law jurisdictional proceeding. Hi there, mommy. Oh, my mother is on here this evening. Thank you, mommy. All right. Let's break this down. Let's break down Trump's policy administration that's taken place since he's taken office. And let's say thanks to USA Today, we're going to use their video presentation just for educational purposes, and we're going to break this down, right? So let's do that. Trump's first 100 days, let's deal with that. We've been dealing with social programs, cuts of Section 8. That's on the way. We also dealing with which is called redlining 2.0, which is going to be a redistrict to homeless camps. We have to really get involved with stopping this train. This train has left the station about 2 years even before Trump took office. We have to find a way to even get to the end of the train to stop, or either stop the train in its track, because these things are taking place, and I'm going to show you how they're taking place. You also have Trump privatization of the Penn terminal in New York City. This enrichment of Trump is something else. We have the tariff war that has taken place with China, Canada, and Mexico. Not forget the defunding of education, which in EPA, HUD. Now, keep in mind that these things were able to take place back in June of 2024 when the Supreme Court revoked the Chevron deference. So when they revoked the Chevron deference, this allowed all the agencies to now be under attack. As you can see, you got Doge, Elon Musk. He came in and we're able to gut out all these various agencies. Now, the one particular agency, I'm glad they showed him, one particular agency that he was very instrumental, and he definitely wanted to release them first, was the EPA. And why so, Tamara? Because he secretly built a data center in Memphis, Tennessee, that is currently literally killing the people. The people are there, has developed COPD. They'll develop all type of illness, and he did not get any type of licensing or anything to build this massive data center for his new AI. It's almost like in trying to be in competition with ChatGPT. It's called Grok. Go check it out, look it up. Also, you have habeas corpus that's been going under constitutional review. Now, that's the ability to hold someone in prison, just throw them in prison, throw away the key without any type of trial going on. So that is under constitutional review. Also, you have the 49 Dutch descendants that's posing as white social constructs that was able to enter into the U.S. under special settlement refugee status. Now, the fight in the Sahel confederations such as Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso for sovereignty, that is going down. Now, recently, they just made an announcement that they're going to pull out General Sambo, which is Michael Langley from African, which had started under President Obama. So they're going to start pulling African out of Africa. That is wonderful news. Now, you got to keep in mind, you have to also, Russian went into alliance with Burkina Faso to protect them. Not only Russia, you have China that also went into alliance. Now, the biggest thing that took place is this AI coup that is going on, that's laced in the big, beautiful budget bill that's going to bust the pockets of the American people. And there was not one senator or House member that read that bill before they started voting on it. Now, we have to keep in mind that it had blocked, there's a certain page, it blocked the states for 10 years from being able to be able to reject any type of new AI program. Now, this is in correlation with they're bringing in Silicon Valley energy and AI bill with the Saudis. So they have all this wrapped up in there, and they're doing that with ushering in a new currency called the Genius Act. And with the Genius Act is to usher Trump's crypto chain. I don't know what the genius about that, but it's to usher in Trump crypto chain. Now, all of these actions are codified in Project 2025, the Mandate for America. Now, with all this being said, every Black caucus is silent as a cat piss on cotton. Now they are silent. And you have to ask, you wonder why people were just so disenfranchised with the Democratic Party. Now let's get into what's going on with this birthright citizenship. Let's get into that. Let's go ahead and add that back. Let's get into that, and we're gonna look at that in detail. All right. All right. We're going to, our slide is not sliding. Let's go ahead and remove this and reload it up because we have. All right. Let me get that going for you. So, everything always act a little quirky when you just coming back. All right. Let's see what's going on with this thing right here. Let's load this on up, puppy on up. All right, let's see. All right, I don't see anybody communicating. Let's get this going, and we're going to get this party started. So we went through our daily segment news, and now we can go ahead and get into what we came here for. And if it's not processing through this, we're going to process it another way. I know we had a storm earlier, so there we go. Let's see, did it put them all on there? Oh, it's being funky today. That's all it's giving me, 2 slides. Well, we're going to do it like this. We're going to remove it, and we're going to share the screen because there's more than one way to kill the skin of cat. It's acting real funky today. So just bear with me. Just bear with me for one moment as I pull this up. And the crazy part about it, everything was just working so fine and diligently when I was going through everything. And then you get on here and it just starts showing its butt. You're like, really? Oh, this is really something else. All right. Hold for a second. Just bear with me one moment. Wow. Such great information to show you. And I don't like to talk without showing everyone what I'm looking at because I feel like it's just, it takes away from being able for people to understand what's going on around the world. And to be able to understand what's going on. So it's amazing. Oh, here it is. So we're going to do it like this since it wants to act kind of crazy. We're going to do it like that. Yeah. All right. All right. Thank you for bearing with me today. All right. So, all right, we're going to bring this out. We're going to bring this out because this is acting All right. So we're going to do it like that because the other way is just acting real quirky today. So we're going to go through the presentation in this manner, right? We're going to do it like this. All right. So here we are. Let's go ahead and go over. Let's go ahead and go over this chart here we have here. Let's go ahead and go over this chart. All right. So this is why is it collapsing? I know y'all like darn Tamara, you getting back and you fumbling the ball. Oh man, this is crazy. This is crazy. All right. We're going to do it like this because everything seemed to want to get quirky today. All right. There we go. I hope you can see that. Let me know if you can see that and let me know if you can hear me. Let's just let me know. Just say, I can see that, Tamara. I can see the information. All right. Let me know that just put on there. You can see the screen up there. Can you see it? All right. So we're going to do, let's go ahead and review this picture. Let's go over this and this chart that we have. Now we're going to evaluate the status of birthright citizenship. Yeah, that's right. YouTube been tripping when you see the word sovereign in the title. Yeah, I'm telling you, this just started, right? Because it was working out all today until we just went live. You know, on this chart, we're going to evaluate the status of birthright citizenship. Now, this issue is back in the spotlight, as you can see, with conservative lawmakers and Donald Trump. They're calling for the ending of birthright citizenship for the children born to undocumented immigrants, right? Now, they claim it's incentivized illegal immigration, which has heavily increased from the southern borders under the Biden and Harris administration. Now, and they're calling these children anchor babies. And that's a term that's been both controversial and offensive. Now, Trump has even floated using executive order to redefine the citizenship. Now, this would totally strip and go against Congress entirely because in May of 2024, House Representatives, they introduced a legislation seeking to limit birthright citizenship only to children with at least one parent who is a U.S. citizen lawfully resident, who's a lawful U.S. resident. Right now, I know you're asking, Tamara, how does this affect the so-called black man or woman? We're going to get into that. Now, you see in blue, as you can see, it's a rule by the land. And as you see in red, it's a rule by the blood. So let's get into the meaning between the blood and the land. Let's understand just solely. Just solely is a Latin word which means right of the soil. Now, it's the legal principle that a person's nationality or citizenship is determined by the place of their birth, regardless of the nationality or legal status of their parent. Now, what are some key takeaways to that? Let's look at this. Now, the practice of just solely as it automatically is granted automatic citizenship at birth. And it's also known as what we're talking about, birthright citizenship. Now, the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution in 1868. Now, we're going to show that there's been variations of that amendment, which states that all persons born or naturalized. Now, underline that. I want you're going to stay with me on these words. Or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens. Okay, now this was upheld by a landmark case, which is U.S. versus Wong Kim Ark in 1898. And the Supreme Court decisions affirming birthright citizenship, even for children of non citizen parents. We're going to get into how all this is going down. Now, let's look at just sanguinis. Just sanguinis. It is Latin for right of the blood. Now, it's a legal principle that citizenship or nationality is inherited from one or both parents, regardless of the birthplace. So let's just say if uh, you're in, you come from one of the continents in Africa, one of the countries on the continent in Africa, right? Let's just say you come from, we're just gonna say Burkina Faso, right? Because that's heavily in the news. And just say your parents traveled over to the United States, your mother gave birth. It doesn't matter that your mother gave birth in the United States to you. You're still a part of the citizenry of Burkina Faso because it's the right of the blood. It's a legal principle that citizenship or nationality is inherited from one or both parents. All right. So, and it's a person is a citizen because of their parents' nationality and not because of where they are born. Now, most countries in the world use just sanguinis, as you can see from the map, rather either exclusively or alongside with Joe Soli, which is by the soil. Now, let's emphasize ethnic, cultural, or ancestral identity as the basis of citizenship. Let's look at that. Now, let you see, we went back again. Let's look at the by the land and let's look at by the blood. So that's what it's talking about in this map right there. Now, as we get down into it, now let's query me this. We have a question here. We have a question at hand. I definitely wanted to have this question. I hope you can see it. I see I have a break point on the question. Let's see it here. That is the question. This is the question. And I'm going to play a little music. And like I said, join in the conversation on this. What year and what treaty made the United States a sovereign nation? This is going to be important. This is going to be important for today. This is going to be important. All right. Let's answer this question. Do we need to get some music here? Give you time to get it together. Let's do that. Let's give you some little music here so you can think about this question here. Let's give you a little for a second. All right, let me see. Let me see if we got answers. We don't no answers? No answers? I don't see any answers. All right. All right, we got one answer here. All right. All right. So Malik Day say the definitive peace treaty of 1783. Let's see if you are correct. Ding, ding, ding. You are correct. Now, yes, the definitive peace treaty of 1783 is the treaty which made the United States a sovereign nation. Now, let's get into now you had 1776. We're going to show you the difference between the two. I'm glad you said it. We're gonna learn something today, and we're gonna show you the difference between the definitive peace treaty of 1783, and we're gonna show you the 1776 declaration, which was a proclamation, which means to speak. It was a declaration of independence to the king. Oh, I like this tonight. So let's get into this. I'm so excited, even with the little screw up. All right, you're not gonna stop this, YouTube. All right, let's look at Article 1 here. Let's look at Article 1 of the Treaty of Paris of September the 3rd, 1783. And look what it reads in the contract. It say His Britannic Majesty acknowledged. Now, who was His Britannic Majesty at that time? That was the King of England. He acknowledges the said United States, this, which means and the other, including New Hampshire, Massachusetts Bay, Rhode Island, and Providence Plantations. That's one word, Rhode Island and Providence Plantation, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia to be free, sovereign, and independent states. Now, did it say California? Did it say Texas? Did it say New Mexico? Did it say Illinois, Michigan? No, because these are the states these are the British colony states that British held in jurisdiction at this time period. It's saying that now the king has relinquished his duties over to the Lord proprietors of those states, that he treats with them as such, and for himself, his heirs and successors, relinquishes all claims to the government, property, and territorial rights of the same, and every part thereof. Now, this is the treaty that officially ended the American Revolutionary War and gave the United States of America, which was only those 13 colonies, its sovereignty. We're going to get into that. Let's look at that. This is the map. This is the jurisdictional map here. We're looking at the jurisdictional map that outlines the 13th original states, which was colony states, colony status, corporations that was under British North America jurisdiction, which was relinquished to what we call, they call, some people say the founders. I don't know how you find something when it was already there. They're the framers of the new united, which is to mean to come together, Confederate States. All right. And as you can see, in 1783, after the annexing of the United States becoming a sovereign, they were able to annex in what we call now Michigan, Illinois, that area, which is called through the Northwest Ordinance. So you can go look that up about the Northwest Ordinance. All right. Now, what do you mean, Tamara, about jurisdiction? You said the United States of America jurisdiction. If you was born into the United States jurisdiction and say you don't belong here, let's see what jurisdiction means. Jurisdiction in international law refers to a state's legal authority to make, apply, and enforce laws within a particular context, including over territory. Terra means the land, people of the land, property on the land, or conduct, your moral compass, how you behave. And that's why they feel they have a right to knock people upside the head based on recognized principles of international law. Please underline that. Principles of international law. We're going to get into that and see where that came from. Let's look at territorial jurisdiction. What does that mean? It's a state has jurisdiction over acts, person, or property within its borders, land, airspace, territorial waters. Now, territorial waters, it means 100 feet away from the land. After 100 feet, it goes into international waters. All right, this is the most fundamentally and widely recognized form when you talk about jurisdiction and the treaty. Now, universal jurisdiction. Now, what is universal jurisdiction? Now, this is a great example. When Trump, now recently you have the war that's going on between Israel and Hamas. There was a period that Hamas were being starved. There was no aid coming out. Those people only had a couple of days and they was dying and falling off. And Trump said, hey, Netanyahu, if you do not open up those gates and let that food in there, we have a right under universal jurisdiction to come in there and to feed those people. Now, that's what took place. That's how he was able to make that declaration to say, Netanyahu, if you don't back off, open those gates, we have to come in and feed those people of Hamas. So that's what took place. And this happens by way of crimes such as when genocide is taking place. And that is taking place in this time period. That is genocide that's taking place. People say, oh, I only read genocide in the Bible. No, you have genocide that is taking place right now. All right. Now, so genocides, piracy, war crimes that any state may claim jurisdiction regardless of location or nationality. Now, that is how Trump said he will go into Israel and feed those people in Hamas if Netanyahu did not, because everyone knows that it's genocide that is taking place. All right. Now, let's look at some key points to this. Now, the key points is the recognition of sovereignty. Tamara, what does this have to do with born sovereign, and the birthright betrayal? It has everything to do with it, because we clap for Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Chad, and our African brothers and sisters for them to liberate themselves from colonial oppression. But we have yet to see that we are sitting in the same seat of oppression, usurpation, occupation. So let's look at the key points in recognition of sovereignty. This is the first formal recognition by Britain that the American colonies were no longer under British rule. Now, the legal independence, British relinquished all claims to the land, governance, and ownership over the 13 colonies. Now, this is where it is going to get real good here. The fundamental moment in international law is Article 1, marks the birth of the United States as a legally recognized sovereign nation in a global order. It put them in nation-to-nation government. Now, Article 1 was the most important and symbolic, confirming what the Declaration of Independence claimed in 1776, but now backed by international agreement. So, let's get into 1776, because you said 1776. You weren't off, but a little bit ahead of yourself, just like they was a little bit ahead of themselves. Just because they announced the proclamation to the king, it was not recognized internationally because you did not have the relinquishing of the land from the king over its territory. So let's look at that. Let's look at, besides learning to start a nation from the Iroquois Confederacy. I know we talked about this. If you go back and look at some previous streams that we have already recorded, you'll even see I uploaded an older stream that I did years ago with Brother Abdullah El Talib Mosey Bey and Shem Malachi Bey, where we called it Checkmate, the Crown Owns the U.S. That's going to help you understand where this information has come from, to understand how to even create a nation. Now, besides learning to start a nation from the Anishinaabe Confederacy, which the new name, if you Google it, it's going to say the Iroquois Confederacy. Now, Jefferson studied international laws from one of the world-renowned philosopher, jurist, and diplomat, which is Emer Vital. Now, this is a book that you must have in your body of study. If you're trying to understand how we can, and going to get out of colonization, subjugation, oppression, to be able to be restored back to the nation that we were before we were overthrown, you must have this body of knowledge. And because this is the same body of knowledge that the Jefferson and the framers used to create the nation that you see today, called the United States of America. This book is called The Laws of Nations, or The Principles of the Law of Nature. applied to the conduct and affairs of nations and sovereigns. Emir de Vattel. Now let's look at one of his most famous quotes. He said, "A nation or a state is a body politic or a society of men united together." Now, women, calm down. Just because you see the word men does not mean you're not included. At that time period, during patriarchal building, the women was in a subservient role. During the British time period, they had the women in a subservient role, and women was not written into law. So calm down, ladies. It's a nation or a state is a body politic or a society of men united together for the purpose of promoting their mutual safety and advantage by their combined strength. Such a society has its affairs and interests. It deliberates and takes resolutions in common, thus becoming a moral person. Now, underline that moral person for a reason. Keep underline moral person. I hope you got your pen and paper. That moral person in body politics gonna come all together regarding understanding your sovereignty, having an understanding and a will particular to itself and its susceptible obligations and rights. Now, I want to read something to you that's not on the page, right? I want to read because I've been, when you're sitting up and you're trying to nurse yourself, you do a lot of reading. All right. So I know my mommy says, "I've never seen my baby sick like this." No, 51 years, I've never been down like that. Mommy, I'm getting back strong for you. All right. So we're going to read page 68 of the book. And it reads, I want to read this. I should have put it up there. I'm sorry I didn't do that. But this is something that caught my eye at the last minute. All right. It said, "Nations being composed of men naturally free and independent, and who, before the establishment of civil societies, live together in the state of nature. Nations or sovereign states are to be considered as so many free persons living together in the state of nature." Now, this is the good part right here. It is a settled point with writers on the natural law that all men inherit from nature a perfect liberty and independence of which they cannot be deprived without their own consent. I'm black and I'm proud. Ooh, you just consented to be captured. In a state, the individual citizens do not enjoy them fully in absolute because they have made a partial surrender of them to the sovereign. I'm black and I'm proud. But the body of the nation, the state, remains absolutely free and independent with respect to all other men, all other nations, as long as it has not voluntarily submitted to them. That's page 68 of the book. Now let's look at some other why this quote matter that Emmer Vitale stated. It defines the nation as a sovereign entity, not just a geographic location or ethnic group. That's why you're not black, Negro, colored, African American, Indian. You're not that. Vitale's concept of a moral person, remember I said morality. This is what we're going to get into. We're going to get into what is your sovereignty derived from. Vitale's concept of a moral person or persona moralis gave birth to modern legal understanding of the sovereign state as a rights-bearing actor in international law. The U.S. founding fathers, especially Thomas Jefferson and Benny Franklin. Now, I talked about Ben Franklin in the Jekyll, right? Go back and check out Jekyll 1, 2, and 3. First part is about old Benny Ben right there. He heavily referenced Vattel's work when justifying America's right to independence and sovereignty. Now, how did they do that? This is we talking about, Miami. 1776, the Declaration of Independence. This Declaration of Independence, there's a clause, there's a section that deals with their sovereignty. It deals with your sovereignty. This is the most, this clause in the Declaration of Independence is paramount. The literatures before that saying there's words before that. And they say the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitled them. Are you trying to tell me my God entitled me to my sovereignty and not man? Yes, that's what I'm telling you. Your sovereignty is given to you by your creator, not some man. This phrase serves as the fundamental moral, remember I said underline the word moral, and legal justification for the American colonies' break from freedom. From Britain. It allowed them their freedom from Britain. How do they do that, Tamara? They just said it. They just said, our God, we have our God-given right. Yes, because it is written. It was written way before. Barack Obama didn't need to go to the UN and put in the rights of a child. This is your right, your sovereignty right is already written by your creator. Let's get into it. Now, the fundamental moral and legal justification for the American colonies' break from Britain to ground the revolution in universal, not just English law. Laws of nature refers to natural law, a system of rights and morality believed to be inherent in human beings, discoverable through reason. Your reasoning mind telling you you are free. Your reasoning mind telling you to operate as you are free. Your reasoning mind telling you to connect with others to be free. Nature's God evaluates those rights to divine legitimacy. Let me say that again. Nature's God elevates those rights to divine legitimacy, appealing to a higher power above any king, parliament, any president, any Congress, any de facto corpus, what are they called? They're not officers, mercenaries. Yeah. Now, this was a revolutionary legal claim, and it still stands that human beings have inalienable rights that come not from government, but from creation itself. Creation itself. Your mother's womb. Creation itself. Your mother is your first God. That's the first God you know until you told of another creator that's greater than that. That's a greater source. This is why they don't want the woman to rise back up. Now, you declare sovereignty without needing the king's permission. By appealing to nature's God rather than the divine right of the king, the framers were saying, we don't need a king's blessing to be free. Our rights are already ours by nature, by reason, by God. Now, this flips centuries of monarchical power on his head. The king can't go against that. The king could not go against that. No president can go against that, because at that point, it becomes what you see today, genocide. It becomes genocide on its face. It is an act of war and genocide. Now, the laws of nature and nature's God was the framers' way of saying we are not justifying Britain, we are obeying a higher moral law that demands liberty and justice. This is not treason. This is the truth. And I know we're operating in an empire full of lies, and it's very hard for the truth to rise to the surface. But the truth is now being risen to the surface. Now that we've laid out jurisdiction and declaration for sovereignty, let's put this in perspective. Because time, we got jammed up with the little technical things. Let's break down divine sovereignty versus political sovereignty. Let's look at that. Divine sovereignty. As it said, divine sovereignty refers to the absolute and supreme authority of God over all creation. It is the theological belief that God possesses ultimate power, control, and rule over the universe, history, life, death, and destiny. Nothing happens without God's permission or purpose. Can't no man create rain. Now, we're not talking about these heart machines. We're not talking about that. All the elements that are divinely given: air, water, ethers, earth, fire. Those are divinely given. You cannot make anything in this earth plane without using those elements that are divinely given. Nothing in this dimension could be created that does not come from source. Even the poison that's being created, it comes from source. There's always a balance. It has to be balanced in all things. Providence, divine guidance. God actively sustains and governs creation, including human lives, nations, and natural order. This is good. Political sovereignty. Political sovereignty means a state's exclusive independent authority over its territory, over the land. Territory means land, and people, free from outside interference. It's both a right and a responsibility, and while rooted in tradition, is constantly tested by modern geopolitics, supernatural agreements, and resistance movement. So, over the years, there's been various liberation movement. You've had the Marcus Garvey movement. You have the Moorish movement. You have the Nation of Islam movement. You have several movements that you even have the civil rights movement. You have several movements that have taken place. I've been in this earth plane for 51 years, and I know my entire life there's been recorded movements even that goes past 100 years before I was even here. So you have all these resistant movements of political sovereignty because it has violated divine sovereignty. I'm going to say that again. Political sovereignty has violated divine sovereignty. Now, the legal equality of states, all states, regardless of size or power, are equal in international law. I don't care if a little old bitty nation in Madagascar or if it's going up against a nation state such as Hawaii or Mexico or Canada. All states, regardless of size or power, are equal in international law. And this was codified in a 1933 Montevideo Convention, the U.S. Latin American Pact, and reaffirmed in the UN Charter. Not any nations are higher or above the next. Now, unfortunately, the UN allows certain nations to have what you call veto power, which is why the United Nations have held back from going into Israel. I don't know how Israel jumped the line and were able to get veto power. I don't know how they was able to get veto power. I'm gonna look into that. How they was able to get veto power because that's always kind of stopped me. So, what should have happened after the American Revolution in 1783? So we said that this was a legal framework for sovereignty, but we all know there were already people on the land before the colonies came. And then there was events that took place where they were bringing in chattel slavery and things of that nature from other different nations and from the Caribbeans, Jamaica, Africa, from different countries within Africa and things of that nature, such as the West Coast of Africa. Okay, so but after the American Revolution, then these nations that was in America that were went went into alliance. Now, some of the nations fought on the British side. A lot of the nations that was west to the Appalachian Mountains, they fought on the British side because they fought on the British side because that area was controlled heavily by British, French, and things because you had the 100-year French Indian War. So a lot of the American nations fought on the British and French side, and a lot of them allied and fought for and with the framers because if you look, they also asked for protection in 1778 with the Delaware Moors to protect them in 1778 against the king because they said we are in a just fight against our king. They got tired of paying them taxes. That sound familiar? That sound familiar? They got tired of paying. They're like, look, king, I ain't giving you no more money. No taxation. You don't represent us in these colonies. We out here, we got to fight all these different nations on the land. We getting killed, we getting beheaded. They gonna send all our bodies home. We don't have no representation here, so we're not paying you any more taxes. So when the British Army, when they sent their army, they said, "Hold up, we gonna need some of y'all American nations to help us fight." Because they coming on the land and they're not gonna be able to, they're gonna be bullets that gonna hit anybody. So they lined up, and a lot of them helped the framers fight against the British king. So that's what happened. But this is where the betrayal come in at, because after the American Revolution in 1783 and the war was over, the king said, "Okay, I'm gonna relinquish these 13 colonies territory to you." This is what should have happened. These jokers betrayed us. Justitium should have happened, which is Latin for law of nations. And it is the body of legal principles and customs recognized as governing relations between nations and applying to all peoples regardless of citizenship or culture. So, in the framework of international law, post-millennium should have taken place. Tamara, what is post-millennium? This is the reparation. This is the restoration and reparations that should have took place in 1783 against the American nations that helped them fight to get their independence. Post-millennium should have taken place. This is not new. They understood international law because they studied it through Vital. So it's not like they knew, but they got greedy because they needed that work. They needed you to work for them. So it's an ancient principle. Post-millennium is Latin for return across the threshold. Return the people back to their state in which they were in before the war. These were a nation of people. They have to be returned back and repaired, but they ain't have any money. So they done ran a coup this whole time. And it was originally a Roman legal doctrine And in wartime, it ensured that citizens, soldiers, or property regained their prior legal conditions upon re-entry to the Roman territory. This is what happened after war. Now, biblically, I'm gonna give you some biblical knowledge. If you look in your Bible and it reads and talk about the war that Melchizedek went into, Melchizedek went into war, and Melchizedek came back with the spoils of war because Melchizedek needed to pay the people that went into war with him. So when you're reading your Bible, these are laws and covenants and commands that must be adhered to. That's why there's a covenant, there's a law that the United States saying that the Bible would be is a form of adjudication in their court system, because those are covenants and laws and commands that must be upheld. Now, in the 17th century, it emerges in international law. Hugo Gratis, often considered the father of international law, referenced postmillennia in De Jure Belli Pacis, which is on the law of war and land, interpreting as a part of wartime legal norms, which means you have to restore the people back to their pre-loss condition. All right. Now, in 18th century, codified in Law of Nations, Emmer D. Vital in the Laws of Nations in 1758. Isn't that before 1783? Yes, because they were studying it. He systemized postmillennium as a part of the law of nation, especially regarding property and sovereignty restored after occupation of war. It was now a recognized customary norm in international relations, especially among European powers. This is your restoration, and this is where your reparation lies, because we have not been restored to a pre-loss condition. All right. Now, and why am I saying that, Tamara? Because, like I said, resistance movement. This is what they like to hide. This is what they like to hide from us, right? They like to hide this from us. We're going to point this out. Now they like to hide Noble Drew Ali. They like to hide the understanding of who spoke of sovereignty. And he said, if I could just get you all thinking again, you would save yourself. No one is coming to save us. We have to save ourselves, people. No one is coming to save us. It's very important to understand the teachings of Noble Drew Ali. Those people that wear those funny hats and they out here and they get beat up and locked and knocked upside the head and dragged to jail, and they be saying that you don't have to have a driver's license to drive, and yeah, it's time to start listening, our people, because our people keep perishing. Perish mean to go through. Perish mean, it doesn't mean to die. Perish mean to go through. Our people keep perishing for lack of knowledge. And this is why I like to provide the blueprint. I spend lots of hours preparing this information. Lots of hours. I've gotten my 10,000 hours in study. I understand the plan. But the plan cannot be executed alone, which has been a lot of mistakes of our former resistance. And they're able to pick and knock them off. And then they get your skin folks and kin folks, like they got General Sambo, Michael Langley, posing as being the skin folks. And he comes from Senegal, and he going in and he want to take his own brother down, talking about some gold. It's their gold. They get your own skin folks to come against you. All your skin folks ain't your kin folks. And we got a lot of traitors amongst us. But we have to get to the point of our divine sovereignty, because our political sovereignty is sitting on our necks. We'll never come out of this. Now, this is the trick right here. This is the trick bag right here. They can argue the Naturalization Act and birthright citizenship with all others, but they can't have that argument with the autochthonous people of the land. They can't have that naturalization argument with us. Trump can say, oh, this is for the African slaves. That was set up for the African. No, 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 no. No, no, no. The Naturalization Act of 1790, enacted March 26 of 1790, first federal law in the U.S. regulating who could become a naturalized citizen. Key provisions: citizenship granted only to free white persons of good moral character. That means Christian character. They was up under the Nicene Creed, even though they all had their various different religions. They all defected from the king for religious protection, because you had the Amish, you had the Mormons, you had the Dutch, you had all those different religions, ideology. But in government, they all agreed to the Nicene Christian Code Creed for their moral character, and required 2 years of U.S. residence and 1 year in the state of application. Children of U.S. citizens born abroad were considered citizens. Exclude now. See, this is where they were starting to use just sanguinis. They're intermixing just sanguinis and just solely in 1790, and excluded enslaved people, indigenous people, and non-white immigrants from naturalization. These are different categories, people. We have to understand what bucket they have put us in. What bucket have we been placed in? All right. And get out that box. Now, subsequent key Naturalization Act was in 1795, where it increased residency to 5 years from 2, and required a declaration of intent. In 1798, part of the Alien and Sedation Acts extended residency to 14 years, and they later reversed that. In 1870, they extended naturalizations to persons of African nativity or descent. Now, this 1871 was in conflict against the Dred Scott decision. You have to go look up the Dred Scott decision. We're not going to get into that this evening. But continued excluding Asians. In 1952, Immigration and Nationality Act removed racial restrictions altogether. Racial constructs not in there? Okay. So you say. All right. So stripping the birthright citizenship, this could create an underclass of stateless children born in the United States, yet denied the protection of rights their peers enjoy. It would also open the door to racial profiling, which that's been going on for a long time, mass disenfranchisement, and redefine what it means to be under the jurisdiction of the United States of America, not by value, but by bloodlines. Now, let's be real. This just isn't a legal debate. This is not a legal debate, people. I'm going to say this. This is not a legal debate. It's a culture war over immigration, race, as well as power. So the question isn't just who belongs here, it's who gets to decide. And if your protected rights can be erased with a pen and a podium, well, were they really yours to begin with? Now, we're going to continue on this topic through our episode called Sovereignty and Separation. In our next episode, we went over today. We're going to continue through our episode next week on sovereignty and separation. We're going to talk about what happens when a forgotten nation within a state is no longer protected. Black, Negro, colored, African American. When its rights are stripped, its voice is silent, and its freedom is sacrificed for political survival. We're going to continue our series next Wednesday. It's going to be part 2, which is going to be called The Right to Break Free. This isn't rebellion, my people. It's legal, natural, and historically justified. Now, until next time, I want you to stay woke, stay informed, and stay ready. Also, stay on the lookout for my book lunch, Sacred Selfishness. I'm so excited. It's done, y'all. As you can see, we got a date up there. June the 21st. Sacred Selfishness, the art of loving without losing yourself. Are you ready to reclaim your power in love? And what if you ever had to chase love again? What if you could give love without exhausting yourself? And what if putting yourself first actually made your relationship stronger? This book will teach you how to love from abundance, not scarcity, how to prioritize yourself without guilt, and how to love deeply while standing fully in your power. It's in time to embrace the most radical act of love, and that is choosing yourself. Now, I'm so excited about this. As you can see, we will have the site up by June the 21st, where you can order the book. As you can see, we changed the front cover of that. I'm very excited about this. I know you're going to enjoy this. You're going to enjoy the workbook as well. There's a workbook that you can purchase along this book and just look at some things in life. All right. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Sorry, there was some snafus earlier, but please continue to tune in every Wednesday from 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are not monetizing on YouTube. We do not have the numbers up for that. But in the interim, you can support the channel, support the mission at Cash App, at $ just another messenger. If you are someone that you know would like to be a part of the show, please send a friendly email to just another messenger podcast at gmail.com. Like, comment, share, subscribe to Just Another Messenger. Hit that smash button on the like and share the content. Until then, see you next week. Thank you for tuning in. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.